Okay, hey everybody, it's Rod Wilson with the Raw Real Estate Podcast. We're jumping on with a great investor, developer, flipper, and Adam and Stephanie's going to join today. I got them on. We just did our first deal together actually, and I was excited to have them on for a couple reasons. One is every time I've talked to Adam, the deals he gets are amazing, and so I'm going to have him share maybe some tips and tricks that he uses, and then the other is just to get some feedback on their experience in working with me and Anchor Loans. But thanks I know you guys are busy, but I appreciate the time, and thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having us, Rod. Yeah, no, a huge thanks. This was a blessing, so it was great working with you.
Very good. Well, let's start there. I guess I'll give a little bit of a backdrop. Adam, you and I had been talking and trying to find something to work on together. I happened to catch you when you had a new one that Stephanie had found and you guys were going to do together. And we didn't have you set up in the system. I'm, with Anchor Loans. And so we ended up putting the deal together, did the loan, closed in about a week. And it was a bit of a fire drill, but we got it all done and successful close. So I guess the first question is maybe you want to give us a little bit of background or talk through kind of the situation with the deal itself?
Yes. So as for our history, I know you and I have been in touch for some time. I think when we had initially started chatting really years ago, I don't think you were with Anchor at that time. So it was great timing that it's like I said, the time might have been even better because I think, we picked up about 4 or 5 other properties right before we started talking about this one. But it was great timing that you had reached out and that Stephanie had been working her behind off looking for projects.
Calling a lot of agents every single day.
Calling agents every day. A little bit on her background too. She came from the medical world. Mm-hmm. So before this, she was a pharmacist over at Valley Medical. And I think she was just kind of realizing this whole, I only get 2 weeks off a year. There's only there's really a glass ceiling that she was seeing within her career. So she kind of seen what my company was doing, and she has been following suit, just putting in massive amounts of effort. And she ended up lining a phenomenal deal in San Jose. And with that, it was perfect timing that you happened to reach out being like, hey, Adam, how's your any financing needs? And I've been covered before. I get quite a few phone calls in terms of lenders hoping to kind of win over our business. It's a weekly thing, but nobody was really ever able to compete with what I get elsewhere. And you came in and offered a phenomenal rate, phenomenal terms. It was an extremely quick close. You were able to handle the 7 day, just quick close. And I know you definitely were pushing through for that as well. So thank you again. I know you're putting in the work. And I was right there with you. I think at the time, I was out of the area, and you and I were chatting all the time in order to push this through. So again, a big thanks. Mm-hmm. But it was smooth. For my testimonial as for how did it work or how did that loan go, it was wonderful. Everybody did what they said they were going to do. Your rates were very competitive, very favorable. It was quick. It was easy. It was seamless. And you also went out on a ledge to work with Stephanie here because
I just started a new LLC, still getting all that paperwork done, and Anchor Loans, Rod was able to push everything through, had a lot of faith. So it was great. Yeah, it worked out really well.
Especially for Stephanie just being a new lender too. If any of your viewers out there are newer lenders, they're a little bit concerned, this or that. This was her first time truly closing under a property under her LLC. She's found a few in the past, but normally I just close under them under either my company or my personal name, etc. But in this case, she found something. I really wanted her to take this one on herself. I didn't necessarily want this under my corporate umbrella. And it was really refreshing to see just how quickly you were able to take care of her and just what favorable terms and rates that you gave her, where it was just a no-brainer. It was like, yep, let's do this loan. Let's move forward. So it worked out really well.
That's actually a huge tip you just mentioned, and my hat's off to you, because the easy approach would have been just to close it under your entity and kind of moved on. But I ran into this situation, and I was going to say this is for kind of the newer flippers, but actually I had been flipping for a long time, and I had a partner that wanted to combine our businesses, and we ended up doing, over a couple year period, probably between like 15 and 20, maybe 17 or 18 deals. And he didn't add me onto his entity. He was going to keep doing it, and we were running pretty fast. And so I didn't really, care or think too much about it. I was doing I was finding the deals, doing the work. I was doing a lot of the work. He kind of had a bunch of investors he had a commercial real estate business that he was doing, development business. Wanted to do resi, wanted to do, fix and flip. And anyway, long story short is I never ended up getting on his entity. And when I went out, when we kind of, decided to go our separate ways, I had, those past, 17, 18 deals, I basically didn't get credit for those as when I went back to a lender, because he was handling the investors and the financing. I was essentially doing all the work. So you guys kind of saying, this is a tight close, and I appreciate you guys working with me, and, the couple bumps along the way. But obviously we all got it done, but, just kind of putting your foot in the ground and saying, look, Stephanie's going to, get into this business full time and start doing this herself, and getting her name on that entity and having her entity purchase the property. I think it's smart, and it's a tip for guys that are, getting kind of sucked into doing some form of this business, but not getting quote unquote credit, because you want to establish that experience in a whether it's a private money lender like us or even just an individual.
I completely agree. I have found a couple deals, and I've always been listening to Adam talk to hard money lenders or other agents, etc. But doing it yourself is much more different. And then after I've done it myself, everything that I learned just gets ingrained a lot better, and I know how to do it for the next time.
I think there's a combination. You mentioned it is important to obviously have deals under the belt, either your personal name, your entity, be it an LLC, S Corp, sole proprietor, whatever you want to create. So that was a very important thing for me, was for Steph to start kind of building up her brand, her business, etc. She also she has her own YouTube channel, so this is now an opportunity for her to kind of start showing that and kind of walking through that. What is your YouTube channel, team? I want to share that.
For real estate, I don't have one yet, but for travels, I do. It's Immerse Travels.
Immerse Travels.
Yes.
Nice.
Because we travel a lot, so I like to make vacation videos.
People might enjoy that more than the.
Yeah. There's been some fun ones. So yeah, she's been doing that. I know she really wants to start making some videos in real estate.
I do, yeah.
She's passionate. So I will transition from just talking about what a rock star it was. Rod was working with y'all. Mm-hmm. That was phenomenal. Again, but I'll transition to just kind of her work ethic that I've seen. I'm very fortunate to have such a beautiful woman who just works her butt off. She is constantly putting in the time and hours. I can't tell you, my career. We've now bought and sold over 300 million worth of real estate in the last 5 years. And I can't tell you how many times I meet people who are like, I'm so interested in this. I'll do anything you ask of me. Like, just teach me the game, And we used to offer a coaching program. We had this, we had that. And I give everybody a minimum of 5 minutes of my time. I don't care who it is. If anybody wants some quick questions, they're always welcome to reach out. I'm a huge fan of that, add value. I found some great mentors early on in this many, many years ago, and I try to do the same. But Steph really took what I told her to heart. Granted, we lived together. We built this house together. She's in a good spot where I think she gets to kind of like watch me all day, and I see her kind of mirror that later on. But she's up at 8, 9 o'clock. She's up earlier than that, but I mean, she's up doing the work at 8, 9 o'clock. She's calling the agents. She's responding to emails. She's working on her marketing. She's analyzing projects. Like, she is literally segmenting time, putting in the work, and she's very methodical with it. And I think that is a huge aspect of her success. I think, would you agree? Would you say, what is something that you think has really helped you?
I think persistence has really helped me, because maybe if you call 100 agents, you'll get like 1 or 2 real deals, right? And then it can be very discouraging after you call the first 25 and nobody gives you anything.
True.
But it's just persistence. And the more you do it, the more confident I've built, and the more confidence I've had, the conversations get even better with time.
Right.
So, persistence.
You know, it's funny. I just talked to someone today, and he's like, "Yeah, my market's really, really competitive." He goes, "I have to look at like 100 deals to get 1 or 2 that make any sense." I'm like, "Well, that's the math. You got to look at 100 deals to find a decent deal."
Exactly. And for all you know, keep this in mind too. There's sometimes, like, say you knew it takes 100 deals to get 1. Yeah. And oftentimes what you have to realize is that you might have to look at 198, and numbers 199 and 200 are going to be your 2 deals that you get out of that. It still ends up being 1 out of 100, but you had to go sometimes a little bit further or stretch a little bit thinner than you were anticipating. They are out there though. Even early in my career, I personally had this dilemma where it took me about 1.5 years to get my first deal. My business partner, Bobby, and I were just looking. He was working full-time at NASA at the point. And he was still kind of like, well, let's see if this is actually real or not. You know what I mean? So he didn't want to quit his day job. We were doing everything that we could to find projects. And it took 1.5 years. It took 1.5 years. Now there's not a year that goes by where we're doing less than 30 projects. Like even right now, I think we probably have 8-9 projects going on right now. Some great ones too. So some really, really good ones, including multifamily, single family. I'm sure we have that 86 unit development deal we're working on in Berkeley right now. So with the idea of getting that fully entitled and figuring out where we want to go next from there. So nowadays business is flush. We've established ourselves. There's a lot of phone calls coming in daily. I'm just walking some properties this morning. So it's chock full of blessings now, but there's a time where it was difficult. And like I said, 1.5 years to get the first deal. Then you fast forward to today, that's only been about a 6.5-year window. I've only truly been doing deals for about 5 years now. And that first 1.5 years, if I would have, perfect example, if I would have given up after 1.25 years, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. We probably wouldn't be. We fly out to Vietnam in a couple of days, so we're gonna go visit Vietnam for a while, have a great vacation. We love the free time to travel. I think that was a big allure to Stephanie on why real estate is just such a phenomenal financial vehicle. But I really want to hit close to home where you got to put in the time, and even if you're putting in the time, you're not seeing the results. Realize you got to keep putting in more time. That for almost everybody, if you keep putting forth that effort compounded day after day after day, and you don't don't doubt yourself. Because I doubted myself. I was like, I have a college degree, but still, like, did I party too much in college? Did I kill too many brain cells? There was all these concerns that I had at one point in my life. And now we're doing more projects than most people in Santa Clara County. So again, there was a huge part where I wasn't sure if I was made up for this. Like, I come from, I used to be a teacher. I used to be a librarian. I ran a clothing company and all these random things I've done throughout the years. So there was that concern that this just wasn't for me. It took such a long time to get that first deal. But I am such a huge fan that if you keep putting forth the work and request from the universe what you're after, it will reciprocate. It will give you what you are after. But better said, it'll allow you to earn what you are after. And that is just something that I really want to put out there. And I did that with Steph. She was manifesting this. She wasn't hoping for success. She was anticipating success.
Right.
She was anticipating when her next deal is going to come in. And lo and behold, she told me, she basically said, "Hey, Daddy, I'm going to get a deal in the next 30 days. And she did. So I'm a huge fan of that. And anyone listening to this, that I know there's going to be a viewer who's like, yeah, I've been trying. It's difficult, this, and that. One, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll share my contact information at the end of this podcast. But two, stick to it. I have seen a few rare people get successful. Like they'll find a deal within their first like 2 or 3 weeks of doing this business, but it's rare. It's very rare. So you have to keep moving forward. You have to create kind of you got to have a business plan for this. Like you have to understand, where is my time being spent? I see a lot of people not writing any contracts. I'll kind of ask them like, well, they're not getting any deals. They'll ask what should they be doing? And I'll ask them, what are you doing? And I hear a lot of people are like, well, I'm working on the website. I got the business cards. I've been working on the social media. But my question always is, how many offers have you submitted in the last week? That's the only thing that we're doing in this industry. We are getting properties under contract. And then we are either selling those contracts for a profit, closing on those contracts, and oftentimes throwing them right back on the market, or closing on those contracts, rehabbing them, and then putting them on the market for top dollar. But it all revolves around how many contracts are you writing. So a huge thing that I tell people is get out there, write contracts. Understand the car contracts constantly changing. Understand kind of what you're going for. Understand your terms, what you can offer. Make sure you link up with somebody like Rod here, where you can get phenomenal funding, and you know that, hey, like Rod tells me you can close within this time. Perfect. Now you can tell that to the client, because that's very important. In our industry, we're obviously making money by buying these at a discount, adding value to them, and making our profit there. So yeah.
You have so many nuggets in there. My head's about to explode.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, those were awesome. I could not have said it better. That makes a lot of sense. I want to go back and my one comment on what you just kind of mentioned is I agree. Like you just, to use a Gary Vee line, you got to work your face off. So you have to do the work. If you're not doing the work, it's just, you could sit in Indian style in your front yard and try and manifest, but if you're not doing the work, it's not coming.
Very true.
So, and then, they go to these programs and we want to do PPC and we want to do realtor stuff and this and that. And they do, 10 things and they're just diluted. And then they wonder why they haven't gotten a deal. And to your point, 2 months, 6 months in, they say, well, this doesn't work. I got to go find a job. So, the persistence and Steph, you mentioned it as well. The persistence is huge. And that I want to go back to that actually. So you focus primarily on calling realtors, right?
I did, yes.
Did. And then kind of what I wanted to hear is maybe what's your average day?
My average day, I wake up in the mornings around 7 or 8, and then I usually drag him to yoga with me.
You've been dragging me to yoga all the time, but it's very intense. I think it's costing like 10 pounds.
It actually has really helped with my mental clarity. I highly
recommend. Love yoga. Love it.
Morning routine. And then I'll just sit down and start calling agents. Try to call, I don't know, definitely 10 a day, I would say. Minimum. Usually I'll just try to do a little bit before lunch or in the afternoon.
And are these random agents, or would you get lists, or how do you determine who to call?
I have a couple of filters on Redfin. So if anything hits my filter, I'll call the listing agent just to see if they have any other deals or just to make that connection. I also do call random agents, anyone on a mailer that we might get. And if you just go on Zillow, there's a agents list in the area. I'll just go down those agents and start calling them. There's so many agents. The list never ends. There's
2 ways to do this. So I'm gonna give a huge nugget for your audience here. There's 2 ways. Like one is you can literally just randomly call agents, and you never know who you're gonna get. We have quite a few cold callers who work with us full time, and I've seen some of them like on their first couple of days actually end up lining up a great project. But you can just oftentimes get lucky calling any agent. It's really, you need to consistently be in front of them when they have an opportunity, like Stephanie just picked up. Again, it's.
I agree. You have to be really quick with a lot of these agents. If they're send you an email or a house,
True.
I try to get back to them as soon as I can, just so they know that I'm serious.
We're not the only investors hitting these people up.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I develop a track record now, so that they know we're going to close. It's very easy when I'm chatting with a new agent, and I could be like, "Oh, hey, here's 10 to 15 projects I've done in the last, just a couple of months. Oh, by the way, I'm looking for the next one." That's a very powerful thing to be able to tell somebody. But like I was saying, that you can either just you can either just shoot in the dark, call agents, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think sometimes it's just like the needle in the haystack. Just reach out to people. But there's even little tactics you can use. Like, what if you look at, say, properties that have recently sold, and maybe they sold for under market value? That's a really good agent to reach out to. Find the agent who listed that property, kind of figure out like, hey, I saw this house might have been worth $1 million. You let it go for $7 million. I'm looking for deals like that. These are agents that you want to be targeting. These are people that are well worth your time. And there's not going to be a lot of them out there. So maybe for someone who's newer at this, start there. That's a great place to reach out. And then from there, go to broader list. But you really need to put your name out there. You need to get in front of as many people as you can. And this is just a numbers game. Like, this isn't rocket science what we're doing. Like, it's a numbers game.
I would say I do cold call agents, but I do it strategically. So for example, right now we're trying to find our forever home. We want an oceanfront property. So I did a lot of research, finding all the agents that have sold properties that we're looking for at a specific price range. And then I put them all on the list and I emailed all of them to find that. So that it is more targeted, the people that I call.
And is that email on like a Redfin or Zillow, or where'd you get the email?
No, I'll just find their names and then I'll just Google their email and I'll find their email that way.
Oh my God, that's a huge one. I've done a lot of different types of sales, and in this industry, every agent is plastered all over, the internet.
Yes.
So
very easy to find these people. Just a name.
Yeah.
Give me a first and last name. I'll have all their children, their home address, their vehicle identification number. All that stuff's available nowadays. There's plenty of great skip tracing tools people can use, etc. So it's a very easy to find their email nowadays. And she's right. She's targeting a bunch of realtors who have sold oceanfront real estate. And when we're trying to buy oceanfront real estate, who should we be calling? These exact people that she's building a list on.
That's great. So I'm hearing, it sounds like number one strategy is just it's reaching out to agents, cold calling them, telling them what you're looking for. You're a buyer, you're an investor. And then what would you say is number two? Did you mention, do you guys do direct mail?
We do direct mail. Steph's starting to do more of it for her business. My business partner and I have been doing direct mail for years. Direct mail definitely works. I would say we've gotten at least a dozen deals off of mailers. I would say the profits that we have made on our mailers are at least 180 to 250x, probably more realistically. So for every dollar we spend, we're making at least $250. So that has definitely been profitable. Not everyone is always going to see that. Some people might only see maybe like a 10, 15, 20x, but we're legit getting in that 2 to 250x. I think it's a beautifully crafted message is very important. Short, precise. There's a lot. Charisma goes a long way in this business. I would recommend. One of my friends was talking the other day, like in the video game world, there's like S class, A class, B class characters and whatnot. And we were at a game of disc golf, kind of talking about our skills as well as our weaknesses. And he was very kind. Like when charisma came up in terms of getting the deal finalized, he's like, Adam, you're the most S class person I know in that. So I have that going for me. But I lack so many other skills like technical skills, etc. But I would recommend that to anybody and everybody. It's always good. Read a book on like how to build charisma, like how to sell with a story. I remember it was a book I read years ago. And there's a lot of other great books on that. But that is so important because I see so many people, like they could have the exact same mailer that we have. They'll send it out, but the 10 phone calls, say they send out 1,000 mailers, they get 10 phone calls. And that's about what the numbers are nowadays. You send out 1,000 mailers, you'll get 10 phone calls. The ability to be able to close, like I feel like if I get 10 of those phone calls, I'm closing on half of those. That's just how I feel nowadays. I'm closing on at least half of those. And I've seen other people who'll be lucky to get 10% of that. They'll be lucky to close on one of those 10 phone calls.
Right.
And again, same list, same everything, even the same price. I'm not talking about offering more or less, but there needs to be a level of communication, charisma, just like general care and well-being for the people as well. Like you need to add value to their lives. It needs to be just coming in with everyone likes to offer 70, 75 cents on the dollar, whatever it might be. That's not going to get it done. You have to figure out how else can I add value to this person's life in terms of rent backs, leave what you want behind, obviously quick, easy closes, which chat with Rod. He'll definitely be able to help you out with that. These are, you have to kind of formulate not only how am I going to add value to this person's life, but why am I the person that they want to deal with? Because there's a bunch of other people who would love to be offering them what I'm offering them in projects, but they sell it to me. I've had that happen more than once. In fact, I was doing a 1031 a while back, and Steph found me a great duplex in Willow Glen. Ended up being 1.1 million. They had offers at 1.4 million. This thing's worth like 1.8, just FYI, as is. They gave me a phenomenal deal. And when I kind of asked them, like, hey, why did this go to me over anyone else? They had two answers. They said, one, you were just a very quick, clean offer, which we appreciated. But two, you reminded me of my father. They told me, you remind me of my father. You're young, you're ambitious. Like, I just liked your personality. I believe she said you were a charismatic, charming young man. And that got the deal done, where somebody else was offering them $300,000 more. Granted, like that might have been a 30-day close versus my 7-day close or whatever it was. But just still to leave $300,000 on the table because it was like, hey, you're just a kind young man. We enjoyed your energy, and they're great. And
today she still calls him.
She still calls me. We still chat.
Mm-hmm.
This woman is wonderful. I try to add value to her life wherever I can. I actually eventually bought her and her husband an archery kit, and I took them all out to go shoot archery. And now they're like lifelong archers. So now they love it. They go out all the time. And it's just, even if I knew they had no other properties, the deal was done. Like, I'm not one to just cut ties with people. They gave me such a blessing. Like, they gave me such a great opportunity that I just wanted to add as much value to their lives as I could. And it's not always monetarily adding value. Like, just being able to spend time with people, be able to get them into a new hobby that now has them out, like getting more exercise, fresh air. They're doing this weekly. Just things like that. Learn to add value to people's lives. And value doesn't always mean a dollar amount.
No, exactly. I mean, a lot of guys tend to focus on, the dollar amount. And it's almost, I think this industry in general, and I like the way that you go about it. You mentioned charisma, which is, I mean, you've got that going for you. You're a people person, both of you guys are, which, some are not. So you've definitely got those kind of inherent, traits that bode well for this industry, because I agree, you can't come off as this guy that's trying to quote unquote steal their property, and you bring just really good energy. You actually care about the other person. You're trying to figure out a situation that works for both of you. You're not going to overpay for a property, but I see you, asking them questions, getting to know them, understanding the situation, figuring out how you can add value to that situation. And then I think when you get to that point with someone in a typical communication, they feel it. It's not just words. They feel that, you care. You're not trying to, rip the property. You're just trying to make, kind of a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I get that in just, talking to you, when we first kind of met and started, talking on the phone and stuff. I mean, you were like a pleasure to talk to. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people, a lot of these trainers and books and what, they don't really focus on that. And because I was thinking about like, of the deals I know of that you've done, at least recently, and just the incredible margins. And you mentioned the universe. I'm like, Adam, and now I'm getting to know Stephanie. You guys just have good energy. People want to work with you. You got to be a person that people want to work with.
It's so important. It's again, every single house that we're buying at a discount, I can almost guarantee you they're getting on average 1 to 4 mailers a month of somebody wanting to buy their home. I own several properties nowadays. Most of them are multifamily, but I have quite a few single family homes, duplexes, etc. And I rent a lot of these to friends. And I can't tell you how many mailers I just get by owning all these properties, that when I'll go over there and check the mail of these things every so often, it's I'll have 30, 40 different mailers all sticking out to me. So it's a combination of like what makes yours stick out. You're usually not the only person they're calling. They're calling a lot of people. Why are they going to want to do business with you? And I think everyone needs to kind of just reach in internally and kind of figure that out. And I don't know if I was always this charismatic in my sales career. It definitely is something that developed. I've always been a people's person. Like I've always genuinely really enjoyed people. I really like helping people. I spent this weekend helping one of my friends and move. Sorry, I was helping him move this weekend up in Santa Cruz. And I even joked with him. I ended up buying, he doesn't have a lot of cash, you know? So I ended up buying him pizza, beer, etc. And I told him, I was like, Shane, you're the only guy who I'm going to help move, and I'm going to buy you pizza and beer. Most of my other friends, like they're a little wealthier. They have more, they just have more financials going on. But I've known him for 20 years. I love the kid. And it's just, it's add value. Like it's all the time. I try to add value to people's lives in one form or another. And I'll be honest, there was a period in my life years ago where I'd get jaded by it. I'm like, oh, I'm spending all this time helping other people and it's taking away from my life, etc. There was a moment that I went through that. And I had some good advice where it's either you help people with an open heart or you say no. There should be no world where you're helping someone and being upset about it. Like being like, oh yeah, I had to help them, rah, 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 rah. So it's either you do it and you smile or you say no because you don't have the time or the energy for it. And that's okay to say no. But I've learned that by saying yes, it's the universe. It really does. It just reciprocates on all this. It sees what you're doing for people. And it's just, even like I said, nothing else comes out from it. Just being able to help other people. Next thing you know, their day is so much better. They're so much kinder to the next person. That person feeds into the next 5 people, 100 people. And there's just this like karmic tether that I'm noticing exists within the universe. So just add as much value to people's lives as you can. And the universe just keeps throwing me blessings.
It's such
I'm working. I'm putting in the work. Like you said, I'm putting in the work. I'm putting in the time. I'm putting in the energy. But but just take care of people, add value in whichever way you can. It doesn't always have to be financially. And that could be for like young investors too. I'm a huge fan of seek mentors. When I was starting this, I had a great mentor. It was actually there was an old, I don't know if you remember, they used to do the real estate investment meetups over at Harry's Hofbräu over off Saratoga.
Yeah, definitely.
Jeff was putting that one on. And I remember my mother, we were taking my dad out on a birthday dinner at Harry's Hofbräu. And my mother had pointed out, she knew I was in real estate. I was an agent at the time, a terrible agent. I've only done one deal to this day as an agent. So I eventually dropped my license. I saw it as a conflict of interest, but that's another story. But as I was trying to do this agent thing, my mother had pointed out, she's like, hey, sweetheart, there's a real estate investment meeting in the back room. You should go take a look really quick. So I went in there. I had mentioned that it was my dad's birthday. I didn't have much time. I have 5 minutes. Who are the 3 big fish in this room? I asked the lady who was giving like the name tags to everyone. I said, who are the 3 big fish I should just go talk to really quick? And she recommended 3 people. 2 of them I didn't vibe well with. Like they just weren't my personality type. And one of them, we just became great friends. We're actually grabbing lunch tomorrow. But we've been good friends for all these years. He was my mentor, and I did whatever I could to add value to his business. At one point, I was going and cleaning off roofs, trimming back trees. I actually built him a fence. Like I'm quasi handy when I need to be. All the way down to like whenever we go for lunch, I would pay. I'm buying this guy meals. There was a time when me paying for lunch was about 2 to 3% of my liquid wealth. And when I'm spending 2 to 3% on lunch for a multimillionaire, this guy doesn't need my money. But it's just I'm trying to add value before anything. And lo and behold, he ended up helping me get my first project. That gave me that aha moment. I will encourage all of your listeners to get your first project. Don't lose money. Be cautious, but also don't be greedy. Too many people, like, how about this? I can afford to be greedy nowadays because I can afford to say no. I say no all the time on stuff. And oftentimes I'll come in with like a pretty low favorable number for myself. And if they're not going to take it, I'm okay. On to the next one. But for a new investor, if I had to redo this all again, rather than waiting a year and a half for a great project, I personally would have rather either, I guess, two parts. I'd rather either teamed up with somebody, and I'll say that too. If there's ever anyone in the future who has a project, they want a good mentor, they want somebody who has. We have our own in-house construction crews. We have great relationships with Rod here in terms of lending, and just years of experience doing this. So I would encourage somebody to either, be it myself, be it another major investor, reach out to other investors, find a mentor, find somebody who can help you through your first project, and don't be greedy. If you can either team up with somebody, share some of the profits just to get something done, so you have that aha moment, that muscle memory. It's like the first 4-minute mile. Nobody could do it until one guy did it. Now everyone can do it. Like, even right after he did it, it was like, 100 people ended up doing it within the next 90 days or whatever. Something that people just thought was impossible.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of, you need to create that neurological passageway of getting just one done. And once you have one, you can get where I've probably worked on over 150 doors at this point. Maybe even more, because a lot of these are multifamily. So what I'm getting at is, spend the time and energy to link up with a great mentor or somebody who has experience. Don't be greedy on your first project. When I was younger, I used to say, if I had a crystal ball, and I just knew it was like the universe, this crystal ball was never wrong. I just knew it was going to work out, that I would buy this project. After everything was said and done, I would not make a dime, but I would also not lose a dime. I would just break even. After all expenses, I would just break even. As my first project, I would have gladly taken that on. And if you had to rewind me back 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it was, I would still maintain that mentality that if I guess if I had my knowledge taken back then, no. But starting fresh, if I knew I was going to take on a project to even just make peanuts, it's almost like you got a free master's degree. Everyone's paying $40,000, $50,000 for college. You're paying 40 grand into these fortune builder programs that are really kind of, some of them are a little off, I'll say. I've seen people go through these things to not have great success. If you can just get your first project done and just make pennies, really, just don't lose money, because that'll change your life financially. But if you can just make some pennies and have that, don't worry about your time. This is the school of hard knocks. If you can go through that, get your first project done, have that aha moment, have that portfolio that you can now show to other agents, investors, homeowners, etc., have a track record with people like Rod when you're coming to apply for loans, etc., it's so invaluable that I will encourage anybody out there. It's either be willing to not make a lot on the deal, or also be willing to team up with people. I have so many new investors who come to me with projects. We team up. They kind of see what we're doing. They learn from me. They might bring another one, maybe two. But after that, they're on their own because they figured it out. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to be taxing everyone for a third of whatever they're doing or whatever it might be. Eventually, they're just out there doing their own thing. But it started with, they got their first one done and they did it right. So that's my encouragement to people, is that find a great mentor or find somebody who's doing exactly what you want to do. Reach out to them and see however you can add value to their lives.
No, that's great advice. I know you guys got to run, so I'm gonna wrap it up. By the way, I could talk to you guys all day long.
Appreciate that. Same here.
Super good feedback. Tons of nuggets in there. So people would probably shoot me if I didn't ask this question related to the mailers. Is it postcard? What's kind of the presentation? Just give us maybe the elevator pitch on what you're doing for mailers. That's a good question. For mailers, there is no one particular one, and I haven't seen one much more successful than the other. Obviously, people might think a nice handwritten white letter might be the crown jewel. But I've also seen postcards, because at the end of the day, you can get postcards for probably 50 cents or less, where a handwritten letter is now getting close to $1. I am a fan of, I would rather, if I have, I don't know, whatever my budget is, I would rather send 100,000 postcards
versus 50,000 handwritten mailers, or, like robotic handwritten mailers, but you know what I mean? So I really think just getting the message out there is extremely important. It does kind of differ depending on the neighborhood. Like an example is like we're farming Santa Cruz oceanfront homes because we want one for our personal property, and that we actually spend a couple extra. We spend more time, energy. 4 or 5 colors. It's much more personal to us because I'm not doing this for business. Once I have one, these mailers stop. You know what I mean? But until I get that beautiful home that we can raise our future family in, that's kind of what I'm willing to spend a little more time and energy on. So there is no cookie cutter answer, to be honest. I've sent mailers, I've sent postcards. I have a couple of guys who work for us just full-time marketing. I'll have them just go blanket a neighborhood with flyers. That has gotten deals. So there is no one and done approach. You just have to do it. My advice, I think even a better question is maybe how much time or even money should someone put towards this? And out of everyone I know, at a minimum, I'm seeing about 10x returns on mailers, but only if you do it for a while. What happens is you might do 1 or 2 sets of mailers. You don't get anything. You're like, oh, no, like $3,000 or whatever it might be, and that does happen. But what you don't realize is if you kept it up, maybe that 3rd or that 4th set of mailers would have gotten you that deal that you make $200,000 on, even though you're only down now 5 or 6K in mailers. Right. So it's all about persistence. Unless you are just, and most people just aren't that. I rarely see it. Like I can only think of like 1 or 2 in my life that I have met where someone is just, their personality is just so off-putting that like I would almost think it doesn't matter what they do, it's going to be hard to land a deal. But that's a rare personality type. I have met hundreds of thousands of people personally, intimately, etc. Like spending time and energy with these people. I've met a lot of people all the time. It's a big part of my life. And almost everyone I've ever met has more than enough potential to be successful in this if they have the grit, if they are persistent, and if they keep going.
Right. Okay, Stephanie, here's one for you then. Let's hear, what's your typical pitch? I know it's probably different. It's more conversational, but when you're calling it a real estate agent, how do you engage them? How do you, kind of kick off the relationship?
Or in the past, I used to just go straight into my pitch, which would be basically, oh, I'm a new real estate investor. I'm looking for this kind of deal, fast close, blah, blah, blah. And then I kept listening to Adam, and the way that I do it now is I try to relate to them in some other way that's not necessarily real estate related. And then once we bond that way, it just becomes a better relationship. We get to talk about deals a lot more often. And I think I'm able to add a little bit more value to what they're looking for as well. And then I kind of integrate the pitch with that, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you go through a series of questions, or do you look at their Facebook and LinkedIn? How do you connect?
Usually we actually talk about things like traveling or books or just every day. I remember the one that I found the Willow Glen with, I called her and we just started talking about our lives, and we talked. She had family in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest, and we talked for over an hour. I was still working at my job, and I remember people were knocking on my door and stuff. And then later that day, we got that deal. So every single conversation is different, and the ones that I connect with are the ones that usually send me the deals.
Right. Great feedback and advice. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. We can go on forever, and actually I want to do this again because it was super fun, but I really appreciate the time. And like I said, I mean, there's I don't even know, there's 50 nuggets in there for any real estate investor.
We appreciate that. I'm trying to think if there's just anything else. What's on anything that you want to say, or I'm really proud. First, I'm just very proud of Stephanie. So I'm very proud of you, baby. You've been working your butt off. I really am. Yeah. So keep it up.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll have to do a follow on how to be a successful real estate investment couple.
Yes. Yeah. No, she's been wonderful. I've been kind of, like I said, just trying to mentor her on the side, but She takes it all to heart. She applies it. This house that we're in right now, we actually built this one out together. It was a screaming deal that we got in Cambrian for just a couple dollars over $1 million. And now our neighbor just sold for $2 million. This was just like a year ago. So the deals are out there. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the energy. I will say this, if for some reason anybody listening ever wants to team up on a project, or like I said, I'll give everyone 5 minutes. If anybody ever wants to, minimum 5 minutes. If anybody ever wants to reach out, run a deal by me, see what I think, see where they need to be on their asking price or on their offer, you're always welcome to reach out. I think an easy call is call my cell. I can be reached 408-768-1247. You can also email me. It's just my first and last name, Adam Oback, OBACK, @gmail.com. You're always welcome to reach out to say, hey, I saw you on Rod's podcast. I'd love to pick your brain for 5 minutes. Anyone and everyone. It's always welcome. I love helping people. And it's just, it's what got me here. It's people giving me 5 to 10 minutes of their time, just changed my life drastically when it comes to financials. I'm still kind of the same person I've been for some time, but financially speaking, my life's in a much different place now. So I get to live a different lifestyle where we get to enjoy, 3-4 months out of the country every year. We travel a lot. Like I said, we're going to Vietnam in a couple of days. After that, we get back. We're taking my mom to Italy. And after that, it's a boys' trip to Scotland and Ireland. So we're going to road trip, me and some buddies who, and all these. Yeah. So we're definitely putting in the work. Don't think that I'm not out there hoping to every so often I have to take calls when I'm on the road, etc. So you definitely put in the work, but align yourself with the right people. Find a great teammate. I once read, it was a great book. I could probably look at your library back there, and I try to read about a book a week nowadays. You and I have probably read a lot of the same books. I'm sure you have the E-Myth back there somewhere.
Absolutely.
I see the 4-Hour Work Week, that orange one right there in the corner. But anyways, it was in the E-Myth. He had talked about you're going to have 3 skills as a businessman. I'm not sure if you and I have ever gone over this, Rod, but I'll just leave this for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like this a lot. He mentions you're going to have 3 skills as a businessman. And you're going to be phenomenal at one. You're going to be pretty good at the other one. And you're going to be not so great at the third one. And you have to align yourself with somebody who can be phenomenal in what you're not so great at. And for me, I have always been a phenomenal entrepreneur. I'm a pretty good manager, and I'm not such a great technician. But it goes entrepreneur, manager, technician. Those are the 3 fields that you're going to have to leverage, or skills that you'll have to leverage in really any business, any industry. You look at Steve Jobs and Wozniak. You look at really you look at Walt and Roy Disney. Like, one was very charismatic, great with people, and the other one was very technical and made sure the money actually was coming in, and that Walt didn't just keep writing checks to all these great animators for all these amazing ideas he had without being able to profit, turn into a business, and continue that business. So I'm a huge fan of align yourself, like find out where your skills lie and work on aligning yourself with somebody who maybe has skills that are parallel to yours or complementary to yours. And that's where you're going to see the best synergies.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, there's a guy that comes to mind, John Astoraf. He had some comment for many years, wrote a couple books. Work with or partner with people that play at the things that you have to work at. So what's work for you is play for them. That's a good complementary fit.
I like that a lot, actually. I've always said my business partner is much more technically minded than I am. And sometimes I think some of that stuff's play for him. Like, he loved working on his own house. He did that for a year. He's just very technically minded, and he loves that stuff. Or for me, like, if I have to swing a hammer for more than an hour, like, I'm just like, not the best use of my time. I just start freaking out. Like, it's just not for me. It's not my personality type. I can't work on like widgets per se. It's not the way my brain works. But some people just love that repetitive. Like, my mom loves it. Like, my mom loves doing puzzles. I can't stand it. And so maybe my mom in another life might have been a great business partner, So
right, exactly. Good compliment.
Just find people who you can share your skill sets, but make sure at the end of the day that your team consists of someone who is great at entrepreneurship, great at managing people, and great in the technical aspects that follow this. And the technical aspects follow, you know, everything from project management to making sure that checks are getting paid, to making sure that all your loans are going through, to making sure that you have to constantly be on top of your stuff here. So that is a huge piece of advice. I'll leave your audience there.
I love it. All right. Well, we're signing off. Raw Real Estate Podcast. Again, Steph and Adam, really appreciate the time. And we'll see everybody on the next recording.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Rod.
Thank you for having us, Rod. Thank you. A huge thank you to you, Anchor Loans, everybody over there on piecing this one together.
Yeah.
So you have been wonderful. I'm not just, Rod didn't pay me to say this. I'll promise you that. So, but
in fact, you guys paid for lunch.
We did actually, and you were very adamant about paying. I think we even sat with your CEO, and he's like, "Well, I'm just going to make this a company expense." I'm like, "Well, so are we." So you came, we were just so thankful that you pushed through, especially for a new young investor like Stephanie.
Anchor Loans to everyone.
My pleasure. It was you guys were a joy to work with, so it was definitely my pleasure.
Well, beautiful.
All right, guys, we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
Take care.
so much.